Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle. Don't panic, don't panic. I've used it before, but I'll use it again. Corporal Jones was fond of telling Captain Mannering in Dad's army. So how is the flock keeping after Saturday? One swallow does not a summer make, bit of poetry there. Maybe your feathers are ruffled a little bit, or is the end of the EFL world nigh for you? No getting away from it. And we won't. Saturday was horrendous. However, now a time to redeem at Wigan on Tuesday night in the League Cup and hope the wheel does not fall off at Barrow. The technical board approach getting some flack, recruitment under the microscope on the back of this start. And David McGoldrick has weighed in to have his say. Age is just a number, he says. People want to look at laptops, stats, databases, and XGs. Let's watch football with a naked eye. It's a simple game. And that's an accurate transcription of part of his post-match press conference after playing 95 minutes and scoring the winner for Barnsley in League One on Saturday. It seldom rains, but it pours. Head coach Martin Patterson stressing the importance of changing the mentality and the culture of the club. Said it a few times already. We'll be diving into all of that tonight, assisted as always by Mark Stallard and our official partners, the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation and JH Accountants. Later in the programme, we'll be doing our best to cheer up at least one Notts County fan. We'll be announcing the winner of our home replica shirt competition. Please also hit the red subscribe button, please, on your screen, if not already. I would make it black and white, but I am technically inferior and not able to do that. And here's one for you. If we win at home, got to try and be optimistic. If we win or get through even against Barrow, against Wigan on Tuesday night, it will be our first win, Stell. You'll know this because you're better on the stats than me. It'll be our first win in the League Cup since 2015. Now, I know we've had six straight first round losses, 4 years in the National League, I know. But that last win in 2015 was Huddersfield 2-1. Liam Noble got a brace, and we got a reward for a trip to Aston Villa, which was a great game, if I remember correctly. Be nice for all the fans if we can get through this first round and get a nice plum cup tie. Now then, a lot of you aren't very happy, and understandably so. I'm going to read an epistle from Ian Cooksey. It's probably taken him an hour to write, and there are others. I'm just going to read a quick selection to start. Then I'm going to get some expert views from at least one expert, or the only expert on this show, Stell. So Ian Cooksey writes, wonder how the committee went after Saturday's game. I can't believe a professional football club fails to see that a goalkeeper and a centre forward are the most important positions in any team. Yet here we are. As 2018-19 proved, it's a dangerous path to go down. I can't and I won't blame Martin Patterson because he's been dealt a poor hand with the players being brought in, either not good or experienced enough for this level. McGoldrick said it all on Saturday. Watch football with the naked eye, not a laptop. I've already read that quote out. I'm sure it's going to be aired quite a bit. This club is going through a malaise as it's forgotten the basics, i.e. win football matches and respect your customers. When was the last time anybody heard from the chief exec or the owners? He's still going. 2 games in, and we are 5 points off automatic already. Yes, you'll get the usual, well, it's early days league table after 10 games, etc., etc. But 2018-29 operated on that scale, and look how that ended. This is not a knee-jerk reaction, but an overall opinion on what I can see so far. The performance at Newport was adequate and should have been built on, but instead we sat back at Meadow Lane and invited teams to press us. Sorry to be negative, I'm coming to an end now, but we need something to change, and quick, because committees picking over the bones of a poor performance will not work. Ditch the stats and laptops and play the game the easy way. I'm just going to also take what read out from Jonathan Hammocks, one of our regular show participants. Forgive me the self-pity, but the effort it takes me as a tetraplegic cannot be underestimated. Jonathan, you will remember, gave that very inspiring team talk when Luke Williams invited him in a couple of years ago. And very, as I say, very inspiring it was too. I left the match feeling angry because we didn't lay a glove on Salford. We didn't have urgency or any particular game plan. I really hope Martin succeeds. Even though it's early, I'm a bit worried, to say the least. Anyway, maybe I'm overreacting. Only time will tell, but that first win in the league cannot come soon enough. And still no striker. Apologies for the negativity. It's not like me. And we'll dive into lots of other comments shortly. Stell, look, we live in an instant world where instant judgments are passed week to week, every 3 days if you've got 2 games in a week. But clearly, a large element of the fan base are not just worried, but very worried. Professional eye, give us some context. How right are they to be worried?
Well, right. We're all worried after the performance Saturday. The performance Saturday was a really worrying performance. Professional eye, and not to be. I am going to absolutely probably agree with most things that people say about how poor it was and this, that, and the other. Context, you've got to say it was the second game of the season. Context is players still getting used to each other. Again, we'll come on to the negatives, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat things. Context will be it can take a while for a manager, head coach, Martin Patterson, to really become familiar with these players, to see who plays well together, who doesn't, and to find a formation. We'll come on to this hopefully in the hour, to find a formation that fits as many round pegs in round holes as possible. And also, as people have said about, I think that squad is still missing quality, certainly at the top end of the pitch. There's plenty of worrying aspects from Saturday, but it is the second game of the season. We were decent in the first half, good in the first half down at Newport, average second half. Saturday was worrying. Saturday was a real step back, a real backward step in terms of performance. Yeah, I agree with a lot of the comments that were thrown out. We looked at sort of disorganised at times. Work rate not in question. Heart, commitment, work rate not in question, but we were the second best team on that pitch. Salford, I think, will finish higher than Newport in the league, so that's something to bear in mind. But again, it's still only League Two. We've got to be competitive with all these teams, and I think 2-1 absolutely flattered us on Saturday. We were really poor, and yeah, worrying aspects. We were going long without accuracy. We were giving the ball away short without accuracy. I say work rate not to be faulted, but we looked like a team of players, or a team that was getting used to each other. We looked like a team that hadn't played together much, which they haven't, so that can come. But it was a worrying performance. I absolutely agree with all the negativity. I can't, like I say, that is not my attempt at sugarcoating anything, because it was a really poor performance. And I think you could tell even in Martin's post-match interview that he was massively disappointed with it, knew it was nowhere near the standard required. So yeah, I mean, the fact that you can get away with them sort of performances if they are hidden 2/3 of the way through the season and they are a one-off. The problem he has, and everybody has that follows Knots, is it's the second game of the season, and we're seeing a performance like that. That is a real concern. And it's right, people don't have to apologise for being negative. You can only go on facts and figures. And yeah, like everyone else, I'd like to know what was said in the committee meeting afterwards, and the debrief, and all this sort of thing, because like I say, they'll know it wasn't good enough, nowhere near good enough. So that's a million miles away. That is a million miles away on Saturday from where we need to be. The players know that. Martin knows that. The fans saying it, they've got every right to say it, and you don't need to apologise for negativity, because Cracky, I was being negative on the radio watching it. You can't be anything but with a performance like that. So, yeah, frustrating, worrying. But again, it is only the second game of the season. You say, well, we're using that as an excuse. No, we're not. But that is a fact as well. As well as it was a poor performance, a fact is that is 2 games we've had this season. So it needs to improve. It needs to improve quickly. But these things can take time. So, look, horrible performance. Yeah, absolutely horrible. No, I say no positives, not many positives to come out of it. But you need a reaction. You need a reaction quick always in football, and they get a chance tomorrow night at Wigan to give a reaction. So, yeah, everybody knows that is nowhere near the level required to be a Notts County player and a Notts County team.
We'll come on to take a look at both the Wigan Cup game and the importance of potentially a cup run for Notts, and that third league game of the season at Barrow on Saturday later in the programme. Let's get a bit of a dump from all our flock. Richard Terry, at least he's getting a bit of sunshine. Well, we're all getting a bit of sunshine on our back, but as opposed to the back garden, Richard Terry is getting it in sunny Scarborough. Saturday was, to say the least, disappointing, but the last 15 minutes looked positive. Definitely need a marquee signing up front. Didsey, Macca and Sam Austin, yes, we noticed, all scored on Saturday. Jurgen Halligan, evening, disappointing game. As soon as the second goal went in, I knew the game was over. Last minutes, more urgency, but too late then. Get the feeling everyone is just waiting for Jatta to come back. I'm not totally convinced by the keeper. Doesn't command his area for me. Paul Farnsworth, will Martin Patterson come to be haunted by his own words? Football owes you nothing and talk is cheap. Time will tell, not the start he'd have liked. Richard Elvian, Salford controlled the game from the get-go. Lots of gamesmanship, goalie down, then miraculously up when injured. Most throw-ins, they swapped who was taking them to waste time. It's only against the rules if the referee decides it is, Richard. And look, my view would be, didn't we know that was exactly what they were going to be doing? Didn't we know that George Grant is a great deliverer of a set-piece ball? The first goal. Couldn't see a pattern of play or shape or system from us, says Richard. Seemed to react to Salford approach rather than command or lead. Jurgen Halligan looked more positive when Grant, that's our Grant, came on. Unlucky to be dropped. Rob Bing, another head coach we have appointed that was tactically outthought. If Martin is true to his word, then the shirt has to be earned. Then none of the starting 11 on Saturday should be starting the next game. Donny Pye, 3 silly mistakes equals 3 goals conceded. That's obviously taking into account Newport as well. Salford were the masters of the dark arts. Time wasting is frustrating for all parties. Obviously, talking about the goalkeeper up and down and all the rest of it. Evening all from Nigel Cameron. And some emojis. Do any of the hierarchy or players watch this podcast? I hope so, says Rob Bing. I believe the executives do. I'm told, or they've told me. Gazali, we've lost our identity. We'll pick up on this. I've noticed that word being used a lot since Saturday. Possession football dropped. Too much overhauling of the squad in a short time. I think I made the point, only 4 starters from last season. Too many signings, no better than what we already have. For me, Sam Slocum is better than Ruse. Sack the technical board. Stephen Andrew, evening everyone. Too early for firm conclusions, but I hope to see an improved display in the next match. Andy Esom, recruitment appears to be lacking again. Emphasis on the loan market and not bringing in proven quality. Prove me wrong. Ray Newton, evening everyone. What do we make of Saturday's debacle? Yeah, keep listening, Ray. I think we know what we made of it. Sam Draper, Saturday was one of the worst displays by a Notts team in recent years. However, with a new manager, a new team, and new ideas up top this season, it was always going to be a slow burner. Patience is required. Gary Connor. Can we forget about ex-players? They've moved on. Let's support what we've got. It's only 2 games in. See where we are after 10 to 15 games and then act. Pythagorean, evening to Martin. Young Salford goalkeeper on loan from Sunderland. He looked accomplished. Our experience, not so sure. Well, I've paraphrased. Gazali, by the time Jatta is back, we could be 14 points behind the likes of Crewe and Chesterfield. Pythagorean with more words of optimism. Jatta could be sold. Hope they have better ideas to reinvest. John Parnham. I don't think it's individual players. I think that they haven't had time to gel as a team, although we played well at Newport. Against sides like Salford, we need to find a way to be dominant. Evening from Stephen Newton, Elvis Bott, Paul Huskisson, David Amy. Richard Elvin says, ex-Notts players scoring on Saturday. Hayden Hollis scored 2. There you go. Well, scored 2 as in TOO, not and the number 2. Stephen Lees, does anybody think the transfer business looks like the good old trust days? John Parnham, I sat not far from Martin Patterson and he was fuming. At one point he told them to wake up. Nigel Cameron reminds me of the True era. Sell, sell, sell. Right. Okay. And plenty more. I've got up to about 7:03 now, so you can tell how many people are wanting to have a say. Stell, before the voice gives out. Recruitment. It's clearly a hot topic. Have we got in? I assume you will be in the camp of not enough goals in the team. Need another striker from somewhere. We have actually got quite a lot of players, and you would be imagining several players the club would be looking to move out on loan. Head coach came in 48 hours before the first training ball was kicked in pre-season. It would appear he's had minimal input into the players that have been signed since he arrived, and clearly had no input into the players that were signed before he arrived. What's your take on recruitment? Have we got it right? Are we a long way off? Too early to tell?
Oh, yeah, too early to tell. Look, you can't judge players on the basis of 2 competitive games. And again, you want to pick out individuals, but this is a collective. We talk about gelling a team together, fitting, I would say, pieces of a jigsaw together. You don't quite know the best combination of pieces, of players, of them individuals, because it's about the collective, making the collective 11, if you like, but it's a squad, but the collective as strong as possible. But you want to get within that, you've got to have strong individuals, of course, but they've got to fit with the men alongside him. Whether that's a set of defenders that fit well together, fullbacks with wingers, or wing backs with wide defenders, wide forwards, combinations and partnerships all over the pitch of what goes together. And that can take a bit of time. In a perfect ideal world, that would be sorted in pre-season and we'd hit the ground running in game 1 and be the finished article. And to be honest, for 45 minutes at Newport, we looked pretty good. Didn't take a chances, but we looked pretty good. Since then, it's been a step backwards. So then you go, oh, hold on a minute. Is this a reality check, or is it just the natural time it takes for players to really feel comfortable with each other, to know what's what? He's made a lot of substitutions as well to try and give players time to try and look at different combinations. You look at Jaden Luca on Saturday, comes on, scores his goal, takes it really well.
Yes.
And that is his first opportunity. Really came on at Newport, obviously, for not too long. Came on again at the weekend and made a difference. Now, does he get a starting berth? Is that enough? Does the manager want, or the head coach think, right, you've done enough, you get a starting shirt now go and show me what you can do, and do it regularly, repetition. And the questions will already be there. The questions will already be posed of others going, hold on a minute, with them performances like we've had Saturday, none of you cementing yourself a place in this team. You know, it's up for grabs. So again, always, whoever gets a starting shirt at Wigan tomorrow night, an audition. Go and prove that you want to stay in the team. Go and show us what you can do. Go and play alongside them other players. So when it comes to the judgment on recruitment, you're not going to make a judgment on recruitment after 2 games. I've seen 2 games of players. You can have your first impressions, but believe me, I had more than 2 terrible games in my career, and if somebody judged me on them, I wouldn't have had the career I ended up having. So it is a very small window. We are all frustrated at the minute, absolutely, because the start of the season isn't anything what we want. What we've seen makes you think we are no better than we were last season. In fact, arguably, we are worse at the minute. But again, we're taking a 2-game snapshot against, a full season of last season, of knowing what players were like. So, rewind a year, David McGoldrick doesn't make the first starting 11 for the first 2 games. Kedwin Scott was preferred, and I know different manager, different times, and ex-players, and you're right, we should move on from players who are no longer at the club. But that is just an example of what happened the rest of the season. David McGoldrick gets player of the year, wasn't picked, was fit, wasn't picked, didn't get in the manager's plans for the first couple of games. So, the first couple of games do not dictate what's going to happen for the remainder of the season. But I absolutely cannot sugarcoat anything to say that the first 2 games have been anything more than, not great. There's no 2 ways about it. And like I say, Newport was sort of fine. Good first half, average second. But Saturday was a worrying performance. But again, you have that in football. You have to move on. The players will know that they've got to respond, but they get a chance to do it. And everything that happens to Notts this season will not be dictated to by that second game of the season. But it is a very early warning sign that, hold on a minute, everything that was under the microscope will continue to get scrutiny, as you've read out from the comments. And everybody else who doesn't listen to this, who watches other podcasts, who's got Notts at heart, anybody will look at that performance Saturday and have nothing but frustration and complaint and questioning about every facet of what's going on at Notts, because at the minute, based on Saturday, it looks like we've took a step backwards. But I'm going to say, well, look, that can happen. Let's just hold fire before you make any cast iron opinions of anything, and we'll give the players a little bit of time, and to be fair to them, to give them time to really show what they can do.
I think Colin Metcalf, of all the messages on the message board so far, perhaps sums it up, I think, quite well. Players gelling, manager getting to know players. These are why we perhaps should have not left it to the last minute to recruit players and manager. And I'm not sure we've even got what we need yet either. Big Meat says only 1 goal from open play in 180 minutes of football, and finished the game without a recognised striker. Still, I take on board entirely the point about players who've moved on and those sorts of things. However, I think it is a talking point, and people would value your opinion on it. And I'm referring to David McGoldrick in his aftermatch press conference. He's not really said anything since he left Notts. Notts made a statement saying that they offered the player terms for a new contract but weren't able to agree them. He'd come out and is the actual transcript of it, because I thought I'd get this right, is age is just a number. People want to look at laptops, stats, databases and XG. Let's watch football with a naked eye. It's a simple game. Clearly, that is aimed at Notts, and the data-driven approach that the club adopts and has adopted since basically day one that the brothers walked in through the door. And it kind of appears that this summer that they've kind of really doubled down on that data approach, to the point where statements were issued about a technical board, and no one seems to be quite sure how it actually transpires, but real time in-game data fed to the dugout to enable better substitutions, for want of a better paraphrasing. What do you think of what David said?
Look, That is, as you rightly, everybody knows, can see that is a frustrated player who's scored a winner, late winner at his new team, and just having a bit of a dig, a bit of a pop at. Look, I think reading between the lines, he probably wanted to stay at Notts. He came from Derby, didn't he? Could have stayed at Derby in League One, the division he's playing in. Came to Notts with the intention of probably finishing his career. Now, whether the second season he had was maybe that sort of surpassed his expectation of what he was going to do, but he was obviously frustrated that the club didn't offer him what he thought he was worth, and he's a little bit frustrated. So he scores his first goal at Barnsley. It's the winner. Emotions are high, and he obviously just can put out a statement like that saying exactly that well, you can do that, but I can still score goals at a decent level. And I'm not saying it's two fingers up to the club, because I'm sure he wasn't meaning it to be that disrespectful or anything like that. But it's just a little pop at maybe the hierarchy saying, you should have valued me, you should have given me what I was after. But again, it's all right. Like I say, I've been over 30 as a player, and it is difficult and it is frustrating, because you do sort of get written off, and it is a gamble to give anybody a new contract at 37 years of age. It is a gamble. Barnsley took a gamble, in signing him on and giving him whatever money they're on. That we know he's a quality player. That's not in question. And like I say, with the start Notts have had, it highlights it a little bit more at the minute. That, my God, what we'd give for a David McGoldrick at the minute. So at the minute that's looking like a really, really poor decision. We hope in the longer term it works out better. But I absolutely get what he's saying, and in a way, it's a feeling that a lot of players do have. Current players that are brought up in this data world, is that the data is there to back up what your eyes see, but pretty much that it's backing it up. It's giving sort of evidence to what you think you see, and sometimes you might see a game and then the evidence tells you something a little bit different. But generally, if you know football, and I think this is what David McGoldrick's getting at, if you know football, then you can perform and affect football matches, whether you're 37, 17, 27 or not. If you've got quality and you're good enough, you can affect football matches positively. I think it's a little bit of frustration, obviously, but that's par for the course when you've scored a 95th minute winner or whatever it was for him. But like I say, he's obviously wanted to get a little bit off his chest, felt a bit of frustration. I think, well, I say obviously, but would have liked to have still been at Notts, obviously, as a Notts fan. So yeah, a little bit of frustration in it, but he's entitled to say what he wants, isn't he? And only him and the club will know exactly what's happened in the negotiations, why they couldn't reach an agreement, how far apart they were in any sort of agreement. But the club made their decision to go elsewhere. And when I'm talking about, we're focused with Notts now, and what will happen at Notts, the decisions that were made in the summer, and the appointments, and the recruitment, and the results, will all go under the microscope of the technical board. Will be microscoping everything and looking at in minutiae and trying to sort out what problems there are and how to improve. But everybody on the outside of the club will be then microscoping their decisions, the results. Everything in football is based around what happens on the pitch. And if things don't go well on the pitch, then obviously everything comes into scrutiny and discussion and X, Y, and Z. Is it recruitment? Is it the manager? Is it the coaching? Is it the board? Is it the structure? And everything gets questioned when things aren't going well. So, there'll be plenty of eyes on it. But again, now after 2 games is not the time to be making any cast iron, right, that's not good enough, he's not good enough, whatever it is. Let's wait a little bit for them sort of certainties, but there are concerns there, and the spotlight just grows bigger with every poor performance, poor result that we get.
Right. Nail me colours to the mast, Dale. Big error. Big error as far as I'm concerned. I tell you what, it's not a case of feeling sorry. You're a professional footballer, so you see the game through a different prism and lens to us as fans. And I think footballers seldom make emotional decisions based on their attachments to a particular football club. Don't think it happens very often. Clearly, David, and I know a few people close to David, broadly speaking, he took a 50% wage cut from Derby to come to Notts. Yeah. And he did a 2-year. And, personally, I think he thought 2 years, get the club promoted. Yeah, and it may well have been more opportunity to match whatever his salary expectations were if we'd gone up. But he made an emotional decision, and I think it's difficult as a footballer. And I think he's been fortunate in a sense that one of his old teammates at Derby's got the gig at Barnsley, so he can shoot straight back to Barnsley. And I don't blame him a bit. I have a horrible feeling we'll sign 2 or 3 players in an attempt to try to cover him and his 20 goals. And we'll probably end up paying more money to 2 or 3 players than we would have done to David. And all this kind of, age injury. He's played 95 minutes in League One on Saturday. At least 2 of the 3 players we signed in January at this moment in time are unable to play for Notts because they're injured. Traore and Will Jarvis. So I just don't buy it. Honestly, I don't buy it. Brothers' decision, Gagliardi's decision, whoever, it's entirely their decision. But I think it now puts everybody under a huge, huge amount of pressure. And talking of
Paul.
pressure,
Well, just to go across, I agree with you completely in terms of a footballing decision. David McGoldrick, absolutely, you would want him to stay from a purely footballing decision. But obviously, in the negotiations, you're right. They've made the decision that at 37, the money that he was asking for to stay was too big of a gamble. They felt so they decided, right, we've got to go in a different direction. Now, as I'm saying, the results and almost directly the players they bring in them forward positions, performances will directly decide, make everyone's mind up as to whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision. And I absolutely touch wood when I say this, bringing no sense of bad luck. If David McGoldrick gets injured in the next game and misses the rest of the season, although right here, right now, looks like a terrible decision, people go, maybe we dodged a bullet there. You just never know in football, and I certainly hope that doesn't happen at all. But, at some point you have to make a decision. Now, if they get that decision wrong, and by wrong, whoever they bring in them forward positions doesn't score the goals, doesn't create the entertainment that David McGoldrick did, then we'll all say so. We'll all let them know. We'll let them know that whoever made that decision, they've got it wrong based on whether it's data, whether it's eyes, whether it's connections, whether it's knowing players. They've got it wrong, and the fans will let them know. We'll let them know. We'll all speak honestly. There's no hiding place in football for things like that. So again, this is why you put accountability in there, whether it's a technical board as it is. I like to think you've got owners at the top, and then appoint managers, CEOs, whatever the role is, but they've got managers of departments, heads of department, whatever you call it, head coach, head of coaching, obviously, head of recruitment, director of recruitment, director. So there is a direct accountability. They call it a technical board, whatever, but you've always had heads of departments. And for me, if that proves wrong, then there is direct accountability for it. And I'm not saying somebody will lose their job, but there will be discussions and questions asked, and somebody will have to be appraised as to, how have we come to this decision. If it's proven in the longer term that not giving David McGoldrick the money has proved a terrible decision, as opposed to, as you say, it might be signing 2 or 3 players for the equivalent amount of money, but they don't produce combined what David McGoldrick would produce, then it's a terrible decision. And I'm not saying heads will roll, that's a bit dramatic, but there is accountability there. Like I say, there's no hiding place in football. Fans will let you know, as we're hearing tonight, people will say after performances like Saturday, things like that will not be tolerated for long before everybody knows what everyone thinks.
Mark Cass says, very underwhelmed with the club at the minute from recruitment by the owners. Since January, we have let Crowley, McGoldrick and Bass go and haven't replaced with anywhere near their standards or quality. Richard Elvin, it was our approach to the game on Saturday. Can't fault the players' effort. Ian Cooksey, McGoldrick isn't wrong. Big Meat says Cerula should be back already. Gresham Maxwell, 2 home wins since Feb. Is that what it is? Mr. McGoldrick is spot on. Now, here's one, and me and Stell were discussing this before the game. 4 at the back would suit the players we have. We sign wingers and try and make them wing backs. They would be better higher up the pitch. Right. Okay. Yeah. Fan out, coaching out, Sunday morning, Mapley United, all that. We had this conversation, and I'm going back. How long was it now, Stell? It must be 16 months ago.
Yeah.
Newport away. Stuart Maynard couldn't buy a point, let alone a win. And we went to Newport and we won. Great performance, 3-1 away midweek. Yeah. And they played a 4. I think Macari was at right back. And then on the Saturday, we switched back to a 3 and he dropped Macari, and we didn't do very well. And when we had Stuart on, we asked him about the 3 versus does he ever think about a 4? Yes, I consider all options, but we look at what the opposition are doing. Yeah. So the only conclusion for that was that the other 48 games that Stuart Maynard managed for Notts County, in all 48 of them, he felt it was better to have a 3 rather than a 4. Martin has made several mentions already about culture, mentality. Yet the one constant that always never seems to change since the brothers have been here is three at the back, 1 up top. Yeah, and nothing seems to change. What's your take on that whole debate?
Well, it is fascinating that, because, and we've spoken about it a few times, haven't we? Not just that Newport game, we've spoken about it a few times, as you do with anybody you speak to about football. And we asked Martin, I asked Stuart Maynard last season, and we asked Martin when we spoke to him, do you have a preferred formation, or do you see what the players are good at and try and then pick the formation that suits the most players, if you like? Now, in the perfect world, you've got 11 players that absolutely fit a 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, 5-3-2, whatever formation it is. You've got, the players virtually pick the formation. But in the real world, in football, unless you've got absolute alignment between recruitment and coaching and managing and what you want to play, it is very difficult to find absolute perfect players for the formation. So Notts at the minute, obviously, back 3, you've got Jacob Barrow, Matty Platt, and Sonny Al-Joffrey, it looks like, is the back 3. Now, you would say, despite the goals we've conceded, which have been, 2 from a set piece and 1 poor delivery messing about at the back, from open play, that's looked fine, and previously, in previous season, when it's with Lewis Macari rather than Al-Joffrey or whoever's there, we seem to fit that. I think Jacob Barrow, Matty Platt, and the one other seem to fit that back 3. So then you go, have we got wing backs? Have we got decent wing backs? Yeah, I think we have. Now, again, too early to judge the 2 lads this season that are playing there, whether it's Bennett's and Cotter, or Kellen Gordon, who played there at Newport. Too early to judge whether they're any better, an improvement on what we had before. But you've also got Nick Cerula, who's not fit at the minute. Jody Jones has obviously played there, and that's another argument, or not argument, another debating point, discussion point to say, if we're going to play with a wing back, should we have him out there? Because number 10 role, as he, does it look like it's his best position? I don't know. But whatever formation you go with, you've got to then go, okay, it's easy to say, well, we've played poorly with a 5. I want to go to a back 4, right? Who do you want to play? Have you got round pegs to go in them round holes? And of course, in theoretical teams, everybody comes in and has a great game when they're playing a theoretical team, because nobody ever misplaces passes like we did on Saturday and do things like that. So, it's always one of the things. You go, is that then getting the best? So you're then going to play Jacob Barrow as a left back, I assume, with Platt and Al-Joffrey. And then who's your right back? Who do you play in midfield? You've got Matt Palmer, you've got Ollie Norburns in there, do look like they want to play similar sort of positions, do similar sort of jobs. Tom Pender's looked promising, in the first 2 games. But I think has looked, more dangerous, look more lively from a slightly deeper position. So you've arguably got 3 centre midfield players there for 2 positions. If you're playing 4-4-2, yes, you could play 4-5-1, but then you're back to having a sole striker. And we're saying until Jatta is fit, who's the sole striker. You know, Matty Dennis looks like he might prefer playing with somebody. So you've always got one solution brings up another question, you know, and the same all around the pitch. And everybody will have a different opinion on who should be that player and who should be in that position. It's a really difficult, come impossible solution. It's why these fantasy football leagues all have loads of different teams, because if it was easy, everyone would pick the same players in the same formation, everyone end up tied on points. But they don't, because everyone has different opinions. But it's an absolutely valid argument to say, do you know what? We could try a 4. Let's go to a 4. But then there is a saying, you play cricket or something, there's a saying in the field that you don't go chasing the ball, in terms of if the ball gets hit in a gap, you don't put a fielder there after the horse has bolted, you're chasing the ball. Just because we've lost on Saturday and not played well, do we then disrupt everything we've done? Because I assume all pre-season has been done with a back 3. Do we then go, that's out the window, we're going to a back 4 now? And yes, we might have practiced it and we might have tried it on occasion. Obviously, the back 3 is what Martin Patterson's seen so far. And this form, well, not just the back 3, but the whole formation, he's seen and thought, this is what suits these players best from what I've seen of them in the 6-8 weeks I've had with them. After one bad performance, to then go, oh, I'm changing my mind now completely. That's a little bit knee-jerk for me. If it becomes 2, 3, 4 bad performances, then absolutely look at, right, something's wrong, something's got to change, be it personnel, be it shape, be it both. But I think knee-jerk reactions after one bad performance is a worry, because then further down the line, you leave yourself then open to, well, he's not sure what he's doing. He's not got the courage of his convictions here, or he's just not great at reading players. He's had 6-8 weeks with them and doesn't know what the best position is. So I don't expect to see a change in formation. I do expect us maybe see a change in personnel slightly, and that's not just for tomorrow night. That's for Saturday as well. But again, I always go on the basis that every game is an audition. Play well, keep your shirt, make yourself undroppable. And then you have to come back to the players and say, look, no matter what formation and job you're asked to do, you've got to do it better than you did Saturday. You know, because we're not talking about the lack of effort running around. We're talking about the cohesiveness of the unit. We're looking at the quality of passing the ball from A to B. And we're looking about that little bit of X factor in the final third where somebody creating something. We haven't created enough from open play. So, you know, that was a worry and a question mark before the start of the season, before a ball was kicked. And it remains, for me, a legitimate concern after 2 games. But again, it is only after 2 games. So, you know, we'll wait and see. But it's certainly a question to go, is this the formation that gets the best out of these players? And you know, are players playing in their best positions? And also, are players playing to the top of their ability? If they don't, then no matter what formation you play in, you're going to be struggling. You're going to be found wanting. So it's a difficult one, really difficult one. And there is no right or wrong answer. The only right answer will be the team that gets picked tomorrow, goes and wins the game. That'll be the right answer.
Northants Pie says the biggest frustration of mine. We're massively outspending teams off the pitch. I guess he's talking about things like the Nest in the quest to become better. Yet we're massively underspending on the player budget and hoping for miracles, is Northants Pie's view. One thing before we dive into Wigan and Barrow, Stell. And look, there's lots of comments, and I've mostly not read them out because, you know, the key word on this show is respect. You know, we're not on Twitter, you know, or even Facebook or TikTok or Instagram. You know, we always try and be respectful. But I think it's fair to say that they were big shoes to fill, big gloves as well to fill, with the departure of Alex Bass, who, I think by popular acclaim, not just at Notts but at other clubs, you'd have had him in the top 3 keepers in League 2 last year. He's gone, and we've signed Kel Roos. You obviously have seen him before at Derby a few years ago, and you know, I think it would be fair to say, when you make a mistake as a goalkeeper that led to the second goal, it gets magnified. You become the subject, the sole focus. Yeah. But I think He's got a challenge at the minute to come through it, hasn't he? Because he is under scrutiny now, probably more than most of the other 11 players. Goalkeepers will tell you they're always under more scrutiny. You're Martin Patterson. How do you handle that situation?
Well, first and foremost, I mean, he's experienced enough as a goalkeeper to have made mistakes before and come back from it. You can't crumble after one mistake. I handle it by having a look at him in training. That's how I handle it. Probably wouldn't even I wouldn't even pull him to have a word. I'd just have normal conversations with him. I wouldn't make a because the more you start having a meeting because you've made a mistake that's led to a goal, you're suddenly making that mistake massive. Now we're not
Yes.
brushing it under the carpet, but he knows. Like I say, players are not daft. Players are not daft. I mean, they in general life, yeah, some of them are, but in terms of football, players aren't daft. And if you've made a rick like that, when you've had a bad game, when you've had a decent game. So from a Martin Patterson point of view, it's a collective thing. Goalkeepers are under scrutiny always, but then so is everybody in a football team. Your striker's under scrutiny because if you don't score goals, what's
Yes.
the other player? What's he in the team for? There are some positions that generally get more scrutiny than others, but obviously if you make a massive error, then you're in the spotlight for that. And Kelroos did that on Saturday, but he's experienced enough. You're not talking about I think Harry Griffiths made a mistake in the pre-season friendly against a similar mistake, didn't he, in the game against Watford? Pre-season, and Martin comes out and says, "Look, one of them things, not ideal. He's done well pre-season, blah blah blah. That's it. Mistakes happen. You just don't want them to be as costly as that. If a string of mistakes happen, that's when it becomes problematic, really problematic. But he's an experienced goalkeeper who's played at higher levels, so I expect him to come through it. But like anybody at a new club, you've got to establish yourself to feel really confident, to really feel part of it. And the only way you do that is by playing well. And obviously, by playing well means not making errors like that. So he'll be frustrated. He'll be disappointed, obviously, as all the players will be with the sort of start that they've made. But again, there's always time to pick it up. They will know that there are more games coming thick and fast, and the best chance to respond is on the pitch. They get a chance to do it tomorrow night, and they get a chance again Saturday. So for me, not a problem at this stage, but obviously cut out their mistakes, make better decisions. That's what I would say. I'm not sure that pass was on. Make a better decision, see the picture, make a better decision. Then that doesn't lead to that mistake. So again, my thing about decision making in football is massive. We haven't spoken about the first goal, how terrible that was. Set piece. We've conceded 3 goals, 2 set pieces, 1 long throw, 1 corner, and a soft goal trying to play out from the back when it wasn't on. So as bad as we are, as doom and gloom as everything is, every goal we've conceded is absolutely preventable. But it's easy said than done. You haven't got to prevent them. The other bit is, have we created enough? No, we haven't. So again, there's plenty to work on, absolutely. But in terms of the goalkeeper, no, 2 games, he's made 1 mistake. Fair enough. And I know people are wanting to criticise you not commanding his box and things like that, but 2 games, he's an experienced keeper. That will come with getting used to his defenders in front of him as well. Bearing in mind, he only came, what was it, about a week before the season started, 10 days before the season started. So he's not had all pre-season to get used to Matty Platt, to get used to Jacob Beddoe, how deep they want to defend, how deep they don't want to defend, whether he wants to out his 6-yard box from set pieces, all things like that. Just take a bit of time to get that familiarity where it's instant. That sort of connection, if you like. So again, maybe that's a little bit of a downside of a little bit of late business in the transfer window. Indeed.
I'm sure we'll come back to a lot of these topics. But look, let's get on to next games. Barrow, before Barrow, we go to Wigan. 2015, our last win in the League Cup. We had 4 years in the National League. In the last 6 times we've been in this competition, we've gone out in the first round. We did well to go out last year, having been 2-0 up at Shrewsbury and lost on pens, didn't we, in the end? League Cup, not normally, a massive competition in the eyes of many. Premier League teams years ago started to field weakened teams. Now it filters all the way down to Leagues 1 and 2, third and fourth tier, as to the number of changes they make. In the context of Saturday, how important and what strength of side is the trip to Wigan for you, Stel?
Well, based on it's really important given the context of everything we've spoken about for Martin Patterson. Not got a win yet, but I absolutely, based on everything he said, based on hearing the things he said, the comments he comes out with, he will be taking tomorrow and fielding as strong a team tomorrow night for the cup as if it was a league game. I think this is absolutely, look, we're second week of the season. They've had 2 games. Nobody needs resting. Yes, there might be changes because of players not performing, but he will play the strongest team, I think, tomorrow night because he wants a win. He wants to change, as he says, change the mentality. I'm more for improving the mentality because I think we've been winning predominantly over the last few years, but I think mentality, things can always be improved, and I think that's what he's after, to turn us into a ruthless winning club. Whether that's a Carabao Cup game or whether that's a league game, you want winners, and he wants winners, and he wants it to matter. And I don't think it sends that message if you're suddenly 7, 8 changes for no real reason in a cup game. I think he'll be going, because he hasn't had a win, but I think that's irrespective. I think he would have gone full strength team because I don't think he pays too much heed into the terms of like players need a rest at this stage of the season. I think he's a little bit old school in terms of, I want my strongest team out there. I want to win. I want to send a message. And you better want a starting shirt. I don't want to hear players, I'm not ready for it, I'm not up for it, whatever. It's only a cup game. No, it's a game to win. Go and win the game. And then go and win the next game. And we'll get whoever's fit, we'll go out on the pitch and we'll have that mentality that we're on a pitch to win a game. So I don't think, certainly at this stage of the season, in the Carabao Cup, I don't think it'd be anything other than the strongest team that he sees fit. Bearing in mind the performance Saturday, so there could be changes, but the strongest team he sees fit, I don't think there's any doubt that's what it's going to be. And Saturday obviously will be the strongest team, and so on and so forth. The only time I could see that ever changing, and it's not a change to the mentality, but I think that's what the EFL Trophy potentially gives you a chance to get some minutes in legs, to change things around, to keep some players happy or whatever, or have a look at players, or to experiment a little bit with something if you think things need experimenting with. But not this game, not this week, not at this time, and not after Saturday. I think it'll be strongest 11 that he sees will go out there.
Big Meech echoes that. All games are important. Get in the habit of winning, regardless of the competition. Stell is right, says John Parnham. Winning is what Martin Patterson wants and nothing else. Okay. I take a slight... I agree with everything you said. I take a slightly different... Well, it's a different observation from a fan's perspective, Stell. So 10 years ago, we beat Huddersfield and got a fantastic trip to Aston Villa, which we can still remember. Like 5-3 in the end, extra time. Great night. 2 years before that is our only other win in the last 12 years in this competition. And we dropped an away cup tie at Liverpool. Fantastic night. And I think for, large sections of our fan base who haven't had these, the big games, 4 years in the National League is a long bloody time. I think there was a lot of frustration when I would say we blew it. You would say we were going to get beat anyway at Peterborough. And didn't Peterborough then get Everton, I think?
I think so.
Which would, unless you're a geriatric dinosaur like me, Goodison Park last year would have been the first time that 80 to 90% of our fan base would have been able to go to that ground and see Notts play. So, I would really love for Notts to get a result tomorrow, particularly from our younger fans' perspective, and get either a home game or an away game against a good Premier League team. And then the result don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And it's an event and an occasion. Because to lose 6 straight first round games in the League Cup takes a bit of doing. You know, it takes a bit. I know they're either side of being in the National League, but you know, we ain't won many games in cup competitions for a long time.
No, absolutely. Like I say, for a number of reasons, it'll be the strongest team tomorrow night, and they will be absolutely looking to win the game and to progress. And I don't think Martin Patterson is the type of person, you know, ex-player, obviously top player in his career. I don't think he's the type of person to start using the sort of modern day parlance for you know, we're going to manage minutes. It's a chance to look at the squad and whatever. I don't think he's got that sort of luxury at Notts at the minute. You know, he's going to want to win games, and he's that mentality of every game is there to be won. And I think he demands his players sort of. I think he wants to lead by that example, that mentality, that real tough mentality of forget about minutes in your legs, forget about this modern thing. It's the next game. You want to win it. You want to be in the starting 11, and you want to win it. Now, again, I call it old school. I don't mean it. I don't mean that people say, oh, he's like a dinosaur. I don't mean that. I mean it like that's how it used to be. You wanted to play every minute of every game. And I don't believe that the modern player is too much different to that. I think they all want to play every game,
Yeah.
or they should do anyway. And if they don't, I'd love to know a reason why. I'd love them to explain to me why not. But I think every player is the same. But you've got to get that. Now, maybe he feels there is a little bit of a soft underbelly at Notts, but a softish underbelly in the game at the minute with all these, you know, reasons why it's okay to rotate squads and whatever. And I sort of get that if you're like an international come top player that's played in Europe and almost 12 months of a year playing 60, 70 games a season, you know, at the very top level, I sort of get the fatigue factor and the injury factor there. There's not much chance of us getting in Europe this season. You know, there's not much chance of us playing. You know, we should be looking to play. What's the maximum we get if we get to both cup finals and the league? But we should be looking to play as many games as possible because it means we're progressing and doing well. And I think he's the sort of manager that goes, let's win games. And if that causes a problem down the line, we'll deal with that then. You know, so absolutely. I think at the minute, it'll be the strongest team for various reasons, but we'd love to have a cup run, wouldn't we? We'd love to have, you know,
Yeah.
deal with Wigan first, and then get a plum draw somewhere down the line after that.
Jeff Parkin, obviously of a similar vintage to myself. I remember the League Cup run in the 1970s when we played Leeds and beat them, their star-studded team. Then Everton, then Newcastle. Yeah, we lost at the long throw, wasn't it? I was 8 years old in Newcastle, but on a school night, I was about 9, I think. I went to Villa Park, says Sonny Rondi, if I've pronounced that right. I remember Adama Traore coming on in the second half on loan for Villa from Barcelona. He was running the right wing, which was right in front of us. Gazali, ever the optimist. Well, I guess to win, we're looking at a 0-0 and win on penalties. And Kel Roos would suddenly become the hero, wouldn't he, Stow?
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, that's how football can change, isn't it? That is how football can change. But look, whatever, you know, every negative, that it's got to change. So, hey, if we win, we'll take it. Get through to the next round, whether it's 0-0 or 6-all, we'll take it.
Okay, right. Let's move on. So we've got ourselves into the second round of the League Cup. We can have. It'd be good to play Man U, wouldn't it? Because we might actually have a chance of beating them, to be fair. Amorim wouldn't be very happy about that one, would he? Barrow away. Excuse the pun about the wheel not falling off. Drawn 1, lost 1. I mean, these are all big ifs still. But you win at Barrow. You've played your first 3 games. You got 4 points from 3 games, 2 of them away. And all of a sudden, it looks okay, doesn't it? Of course, it's a big if, isn't it? We know it's a big if. I mean, I'd say the drive alone is enough to put the fear of God into you, isn't it, Barrow? Right. I mean, it is the end of the world. You've bottled coming up on Friday, haven't you, to play golf with me on Furness Golf Club Links?
Yeah. Yeah, I do have to do some work sometimes. I do have to do that sometimes
I've
during the
given
week.
that
So
up,
yeah, I
Stell.
can't. Yeah, I can't play golf this week. But yeah, I say we all know the journey to Barrow is a long and unforgiving one. So even more important that we get something when we come back from there. But not going to be easy. But then again, they've not had an easy start to the season, have they? Not scored a goal, lost both the games, albeit they've played MK Dons and Chesterfield, two of the favourites for promotion. So they'll argue that they've had a tough start. Former Notts player Regan Booty up there as well. They
Right?
signed him,
Oh,
didn't they, in the
yes.
summer
Yeah.
from Gateshead. So look, we've got Wigan first, and they want to get the job done there, and then go on to that. But there's no time like the present or the earliest possible opportunity to get your first league win and your first 3 points under your belt. And hopefully by this time next Monday, we're all looking at things with a slightly different viewpoint. But again, nothing will be set in stone by then. You know, it's still going to be early days in the season, but we'll be a little bit more informed on things. And hey, two bad performances will be even more negative than we are now. But a couple of decent ones, then hopefully we look at things with a little bit more optimism and sort of well, say level-headedness, but I don't think anybody's overreacting. It's just unfortunately that was the performance on Saturday.
Yes. Barrow, I think, as Jurgen Halligan said, was midweek last year. Horrible journey. I don't know if were you that one, Stel? We were terrible first half. Did
I
we take Inchy off after half an hour or something?
it was one I missed. It
Better.
was one I missed last
Yeah,
season, so I
strategic.
didn't
Yeah,
do the
thought,
Barrow
yeah,
one.
you got the diary sorted for that one, didn't you?
Absolutely, it's not worked that way this season. I'm missing a couple of home games, but yeah, so be it. That's the way it goes. But no, I wasn't there, so I can't really critique last year. I know it's David McGoldrick penalty got us an equaliser, didn't it? But no,
The
I
press
wasn't there.
box is not massively luxurious, I don't think, Stel.
It certainly isn't. No.
Um, would you be saying, given everything that we've said about the cup game, and you can't pick and choose, do you think the Barrow game is more important than Wigan?
Yeah, league games are your bread and butter, aren't you? We want promotion this season. League games are more important, but that doesn't. I'm talking if you're having to make me pick one, yeah, that's it. But I want to win both, right? And I don't see why we don't. But we need to improve massively from Saturday. But again, we looked at it last season, didn't we? When we needed a response, and ironically, it seemed to be after the Salford game. Then we got a response. So again, a response is needed, and that's the only way that the players will change ours and the fans' sort of opinions and views and things like that. You've got to perform on the pitch. That is the underlying constant, say, pressure, but responsibility you've got as a footballer. Doesn't matter what you do on a training ground, potentially at times. Yes, you've got to impress the manager to get in the team, but it's what happens on the pitch on match day. That's what dictates you in the short term in terms of getting a shirt, and in the long term of having an actual career in football. And see what level you get to. But it's like I say, there's that underlying responsibility of when you play badly, and everyone does, then you've got to respond. You've got to get out of it and perform better.
John Parnham expects a tough trip to Barrow, always difficult. Jurgen Halligan, I'll feel better with a win at Barrow, won't we all? A man of Stell's calibre and reputation, says Big Meech, does not travel away to Barrow. Well, he is on Saturday, Big Meech.
I am sat there.
He ain't doing the golf on Friday, but he'll be there on Saturday. Hopefully, you will be as well. I think also a shout out. I think it's 600 knots to take into Wigan tomorrow, which I think is a really good effort because it's not been the greatest start of the season to us. Wigan is not the most attractive or easiest place to be navigating the M6 and all the rest of it on a Tuesday night. So I think that's a great effort by the Notts fans. One player, and I'm kind of trying to look for bright spots, and you mentioned him right at the start of the show. If you look back to someone like Adam Traore, comes on Port Vale, has the header, yeah.
My Traore, not Adama
My
Traore.
Traore, yeah, definitely not Adama Traore. Yeah, my Traore hits the bar against Port Vale, and it's never really caught fire. Yeah, if that goes in, it could be massively different. They're the kind of those little margins, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yet you look at Luca, who's come on in a difficult scenario, and I've watched the goal back, and I thought it was a good goal at the time. And to be honest, he's in the box, he got a yard, and he swiveled really well. And you'll be able to critique this far better than me. Even as a Parks player, I was a centre half or a midfielder. But for me, it was a good, he had striker's instinct, swivel, got the shot off quick. Keeper didn't have a lot of time to react. And you never know, because he didn't necessarily get that many goals at Grimsby, but 3 in 22. But fair play to him in a difficult game to be playing. He's got straight off the mark.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you've assessed that pretty well. The hallmarks of a decent striker or decent finisher
Yes.
is you get half a yard, you don't need loads of space. Yes, I know it wasn't packed, but it was touch and hit, and the keeper doesn't have a chance to get set because you're not lining yourself up, getting your balance, whatever. Sometimes you have to hit things, not, and the better strikers don't snatch at them. Sometimes you can hit it early, and if you snatch at it, miss hit it, it looks like, oh, he's rushed it. But he had a touch. I think he touched with his left foot, finished with his right foot from about the penalty spot. And again, although it's not a spectacular goal or anything like that, but for him, and let's face it, was he 20 years of age? So you say he's not come here with a great CV, but what 20-year-old has got a fantastic CV? He scored goals, maybe 3 of them, 4 now, but he scored goals. That in his, only his second substitute appearance in his first game at Meadow Lane in front of 9,500, whatever there was there on Saturday, will give him confidence. Hopefully he can grow. He's in a phase of his career when he needs to grow as a player, to get better, to improve, and to start crafting that CV by getting goals, by playing well, by catching the eye. Now, again, 2 substitute performances we're not going to judge him on, but he can't have done any more, given limited game time. He's given 1 opportunity and he takes it. Now that's great for him. Can he now build on that as a young lad? Can he go? Because as well, you look at Notts and go, if I'm an attacking player, there is space and opportunity there. There is a shirt ready to be taken. Nobody's really nailed down them attacking positions for Notts. So there is an opportunity there. Now it's about, can I step through the door? The door's ajar. Can I step through it and force my way in? And this be the real, I won't say first rung on the ladder, because he had that at Grimsby, a lone spell there, 20-odd games and 3 goals. Now then, can I take that next step and become a say ever present, but can I become a name on the team sheet week after week? And by doing that, as a forward player, you've got to score or create or play well and cause problems. So he's done that well. Hopefully he can carry on from doing that.
Bit of good news. Stephen Silver, the Notts fan who's taken seriously ill at Newport. He was in hospital all last week in South Wales, and he's been waiting to get a hospital bed in Nottingham. He has now been transferred back up to Nottingham, so he's getting there, and it's a lot closer to Meadow Lane than he was when he was in hospital in Cardiff. So all our very best to Stephen. I think he's listening tonight. He's certainly been retweeting all our show promotional tweets. So all the best, Stephen, and maybe when you're up to it, we'll get you on the show for 5 minutes.
He's been poorly enough, Paul. He's been ill enough. He doesn't need another kick in the teeth now.
Big Meats Traore has to play. Not made much of an appearance in pre-season so far. I believe he's had 1 or 2 injury issues as well. Ian Cooksey, with regards to Luca, I said on here a fortnight ago, a Grimsby fan I spoke to said he likes to attack and is prepared to have a go. So Malcolm Shearston, and the very latest, Malcolm obviously keeps in touch with Stephen. He's not home in Nottingham yet, but he is in the city hospital and he's having some more surgery, I believe, to get things sorted. Obviously, Duncan Comrie, Lippy Jane, and lots of others all wishing Stephen the very best. We look forward to seeing him back at Meadow Lane in the not too distant future. Right, all that remains, winner of the shirt competition, home replica shirt, which we're going to get our player sponsor. We sponsor the Magpie Circle, Matty Platt. So Matty is going to sign that shirt. It is a replica shirt, just to be clear, in a size of your choice. The winner is, and I know they will be in touch because I've seen them on the message board tonight. So the winner is Lippy Jane. So LJ, Lippy, Jane, whatever you want to call yourself, drop us a note. We'll be in touch. Size of shirt. If you want it dedicated to a particular person, let us know, and Matty will do that. So congratulations to Lippy Jane for winning the home replica shirt, which has been given to us courtesy of one of our 2 official partners, JH Accountants. Right, I think that's about done it. It's a busy old week. So we've done the show tonight. It's Monday. Tuesday, we're off all the way up to Wigan. Friday, I'm heading up early with the golf clubs to Barrow. We will do a Friday night Magpie Live from Barrow. What else is there for me to do after I finish playing golf in Barrow? I hope that one don't bite me. If there's lots of Barrow people listening. And then, the vlog will be posted shortly after the game from Wigan tomorrow evening. Chloe's up there as well, and I think Grandad's going, so we'll be doing a vlog from the game, and of course there will be a vlog after Barrow as well. So I don't do much in terms of paid income, Stell, but the old volunteering on this is getting a bit hefty now with the hours.
My heart bleeds for you.
Yeah,
You're mentioning them golf clubs too many. Let's say you're going up golfing, I'm staying back to do some work, but we'll both be at Wigan and Barrow. So hopefully, like I say, by the time we're back on next week, we're all in a little bit of better frame of mind.
Yes, indeed, Stell. Thank you, one and all, for watching us tonight. Thank you to our official partners, JH Accountants and the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation. Also, an announcement coming soon about Radi Avramovic. Those of you of my era, the greatest goalkeeper I've ever seen play for Notts. We've got a date sorted for Radi to make his first return to Notts County and to Nottingham in over 25 years. He'll be doing an event for us at the Navigation. He'll also be going to a Notts game. So we're busy putting all that together as we speak. More details to follow. Thank you very much, one and all. Here's to going into the hat for the second round of the Carabao Cup and getting a Premier League team. That would be nice. Cheers for now. Thank you.
Cheers.